Oh, there's been a territorial flare-up in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. China and Vietnam have traded barbs over the movement of a Chinese research ship and 5 escort vessels in what experts have called the most significant incursion in 4 years. Our Chinese vessel Xiang Yang Hong 10 began operating in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone, or the EEZ, on the 7th of May, moving between gas blocks operated by Russian firms in the South China Sea. Hanoi's protest came after Beijing announced its installation of at least 3 new light buoys in the waters near the Spratly Islands. Vietnam accuses the ships of violating its sovereignty, and it has demanded that they leave its territorial waters. These ships are still operating within the zone. Vessels are allowed to cross other countries' exclusive economic zones under international rules. But China's operations have long been perceived as hostile by Vietnam and other countries with claims in the South China Sea. These include the Philippines and Malaysia. Beijing has claimed close to the entire South China Sea. That includes waters that lie within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Hanoi has called on the international community to join its efforts in maintaining order, peace and security in the region. And for more on this story, CNA's Lo Minmin joins us live from Shanghai. Minmin, China insists it's undertaking regular activities in its own territory. Do you see this as turning into a protracted problem?
Given that these ships haven't left, even after Vietnam made a very rare public statement demanding that they do so, that's clearly not a de-escalatory move from China. And it's hard to say how long this standoff could last, because the last time something like that happened, it lasted 3 months in 2019, when a Chinese survey ship stayed in Vietnamese exclusive economic zone, making aggressive maneuvers trying to get Vietnam to stop its drilling campaigns in the area. And it looks like the same pattern repeating itself again here.
中国对南沙群岛及其附近海域拥有主权，对相关海域拥有主权权利和管辖权。中国的有关船只在本国管辖海域开展正常的活动，正当合法，不存在进入他国海域或专属经济区的问题。在这个南海问题上，我们同有关各方都保持着沟通，我们愿意通过对话协商妥善解决存在的分歧，共同维护南海的和平稳定。
Well, there is a caveat there, because the Foreign Ministry added that it will firmly protect its legitimate rights and sovereignty. And we know that China claims some 80% of the South China Sea based on what it says are old maps.
Minmin, of course, some of the other claimants to territories in the South China Sea are key allies and partners of the United States, a key player in the region, of course, conducting freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. So do you see the current standoff affecting the state of play between China and the US in this region?
Vietnam is certainly being courted by both Washington and Beijing in this power play here, and Vietnam already increasingly sees Washington as a hedge against Beijing's growing assertiveness in the region. But even as this flare-up is happening over the Spratly Islands, just this week, a Chinese naval training ship had arrived in Vietnam on Tuesday on a goodwill trip, and it was warmly welcomed by Vietnamese local government and military officials, and therein lies the contradiction and the bind that Vietnam finds itself in, because even though it's emerged as one of the loudest objectors of Chinese action in the South China Sea in recent years, it has lodged multiple protests to Beijing for setting up weather stations and administrative units, and even landing military aircraft in the Spratly Islands. But Vietnam is still so economically dependent on China. China is its largest trading partner. They share over 1,000 kilometers of land border. That proximity means that China has a profound impact on Vietnam's security and economy. So this problem isn't going to be resolved anytime soon, because domestic politics here in China also doesn't allow Beijing to relinquish its claims over the South China Sea.
Thanks for that. Lo Minmin speaking to us live there from Shanghai.